is tall, the energy is wide, the energy is palpable. Wait, I want to take advantage of it, Yara, if you don't mind. Don't leave me hanging, y'all. Let's try something, okay? Everybody say, hey, Miss Yara. Say, hey, Miss Yara.
I'm blushing.
And you can't buy that blush at Sephora, sorry. So I had like 50% of the reason why I threw that request out there is because, Yara, I really wanted you to be cloaked in love. I wanted you to feel the highest vibration. There are thousands of people in this room with us, and I feel confident I can speak on behalf of everyone when I say you are so easy to root for.
Thank you. Wow,
Truly.
I received that.
Yeah, we're always in awe of you, whether it is your acting, whether it's you as an activist, whether it's you as a producer, you're the co-founder of Seven Sun Productions, whether it's you as an intellect, in general as a multi-hyphenate creative, you just dazzle and inspire, and I want you to receive that as truth.
Thank you. Well, I'm so grateful because truly I feel like every moment of my career has been anchored in community, in this community, and I really couldn't ask for a better group of people to grow with, who have been down to grow with me and be down for every evolution. So, you know, I sit in gratitude for just the warmth that we all get to experience today.
Yes. And then the other reason, I'm giving you a little tour of how my brain works right here. The other reason I threw this like impromptu audio exercise y'all way, which you killed it by the way, okay? But I did it because I really wanted everyone to experience the feeling and the power behind their individual and collective voice. Because that's the entry point for the conversation we're having with Yara, because we know she has many layers, but I don't know if all of y'all understand that a new floor has arrived in the house that Yara Shahidi built, and that floor is dedicated to podcasting.
Yeah.
We've got ourselves a podcaster.
It's time.
Yes, it is time. And it's very befitting that you plant your flag in the pod soil. And so come November, in just a few weeks, November 2024, you guys will experience the Optimist Project, hosted by this gal right here, Yara Shahidi, exclusively on SiriusXM, which is also my home, Sway in the Morning with Heather B. And so congratulations, my boo!
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me into the Sirius family.
Yeah, we are SiriusXM siblings right now. That's why we got all this wardrobe coordination. All right, so let's start, Yara, with the ethos, the origin story behind this podcast and the name. What can you share with us about it?
Well, the Optimist Project blossomed from two things. I think the first was a totally selfish endeavor. You know, me and my mama Carrie were business partners, we're friends, but we're also people that sit down at the end of most days to think about quality of life, to think about how we can be of service, and to think about how we sustain. And I feel like there's been years I think we've all collectively experienced in which the question of how we sustain has been front and center. Yeah. And I think even amidst the negativity that we experience, the fact that even people that are most worried about our future get up and choose to do the work means that there's a future worth rooting for.
Right.
And so it doesn't have to be this super heady, heavy intellectual conversation, but it truly came from this place of how can we gather these people to talk about the little things, the big things that keep us going, that keep us fueling our work across platforms. So it's been great because we've had musicians, academics, all sorts of folks talking about their work and what drives them.
Yeah.
And then it was also a question of accessibility because, I mean, these rooms are so special, and I think we have moments like these throughout the year where we're able to gather and hear from people that inspire us, but so many times Mommy and I would look at each other in these rooms like, oh my goodness, if we could open this door and invite everyone into the conversation we just heard in this small soiree or at this conference, we know so many people would feel as moved as we are. And so it was a question of accessibility. How can we take those people that have inspired us personally and bring them so that we can all listen and indulge and enjoy? Yeah. So it's been such a fun process.
I love that, because what I'm hearing too, Yara, is you are a modern day griot. And I'm someone, I've loved podcasting, whether it's been as a listener, as a guest, as a host, going on like double-digit years. And then one day it hit me that this is actually deeper than just an episode. This has an AI that is ancestral intelligence. That's the AI I'm talking about now, because when you go back to our early tribes, the most heralded individuals were the storytellers, right? Those that preserved our culture, that preserved our human experience. And for all the podcasters that are in the room, let me see by a show of hands, who has a podcast in here? Love it. Represent for yourselves. Raise your hand right there, Yara. You got a podcast too. Yeah, but it really is, I feel like, us taking on the torch of preserving our stories, making sure that they're heard and that they inspire not only the generation we're currently in, but the generation prior and the generation that's to come. So that makes me wonder now, too, since we primarily have experienced you in front of the camera, how has audio changed your creative process? What was your approach? Because this is the new medium for you.
Yes, but I have to say, audio has been my first love. I don't know, some people may know this. I didn't watch TV during the week until Blackish came on. Otherwise, I watched TV for an hour on Saturdays growing up.
And what did you watch?
I'd watch, it was called Time Warp Trio.
Okay.
It was, I don't know if there's any other kids that were watching three kids travel through history in their free time.
Anyone out there?
I saw you.
Find your gang.
So that's what I was up to.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think I've kind of had a topsy-turvy career in that audio has fueled so much of my love of art, whether it's music, whether it was audiobooks.
Yeah.
We've always been a very audio-heavy family. I think my parents had the foresight, instead of movie nights, they'd like set up a fort and my brother and I would listen to audiobooks like we were watching something. I feel like it's such an imaginative and creative form because it allows us, I feel like audio is a form where we get to meet halfway, both the host and the listener, because I'm relying on your creativity and your imagination to go on this journey, and it's a really fun moment to be able to do that. So, I mean, to answer your question, I feel like this has been a long time coming because I think I listened to 100,000 minutes of NPR during 2020. That was I got a literal like little plaque in the mail because of how much I listened.
I would like to study your brain just based off that stat.
I know a lot of fun facts, but I say that to say it's been so fun being able to return to a creative medium that feels really authentic and really honest to us, because the other big thing about being an actor is that you are one small part of this giant production. You're playing a character, you're embodying someone else's story. So there's been something really special about the level of authenticity and honesty of being able to just sit across like we are here and have these conversations. And truly every time we've been in the studio recording, we've personally felt moved. The amount of conversations that then bleed into our house and then bleed into our offices because we've just personally been moved by the conversations we're having has been really cool. But yeah, it's a different process because, you know, y'all, I would sit and listen to a 2-hour conversation, but we're trying to make it easily digestible for everybody too. So we're finding that middle ground.
Well, because you're hosting it, I think that's an easy way for everyone to say.
Can I ask who already listens to podcasts?
Yes.
Generally.
Okay.
All right.
There's your audience. We're going to see y'all in November, right? Get your ears ready. Also, in the spirit of your podcast, Yara, because we are both in an industry that, yes, it's glamorizing. Yes, there are many, you know, treats that come with it, bonuses, and it's very meaningful, but it can be cutthroat. It can be disappointing. It can be littered with rejection. How do you keep yourself optimistic when you're navigating like very tricky terrain throughout your career?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in a room of creative people right now, and I think regardless of your field, what you just shared is a very universal sentiment. It's really interesting to be a creative, you have to be so vulnerable, but the territory that we're in can feel so unstable. It's counterintuitive at times. I'm supposed to show up as my most open self, but you know that you walk into rooms and wonder who's rooting for you. I feel like the two big things that, I mean, of course come through in the podcast, but have truly been sentiments of my life have been community and has been purpose. I think oftentimes there is so much kind of extracurricular stuff that comes with why you got into your field in the first place.
Yeah.
Things that you didn't necessarily sign up for, things that are wonderful. I love all the journey that my career has taken me on, but I feel like oftentimes being of service and finding ways in which your art is of service is ultimately grounding, because we know it's an uphill battle.
Right.
And we know that there's going to be a lot that you have to endure in order to share with the world. And so, you know, I think it's actually my first tattoo. You can't even really see it. It's 63 for 1963, because it was a pivotal year in the civil rights movement. But the reason it was my first tattoo was it's a reminder that there was a generation of people putting in work for a future that they weren't even guaranteed, for our future. And I think there's a sentiment of, we call it grateful indebtedness. I am gratefully indebted to the people before me, and I think our task now is just to continue to pass it on so that people feel the same way about us, generations to come.
Absolutely, I love that. That's deep reverence. Yeah. Because this is your first time jumping into the podcast world, it had me thinking about how I'm sure a lot of folks here, I definitely have experienced when you have established yourself in one area and you're trying something new, but the thought of people witnessing you trying something new can feel crippling, right? I've seen a lot of conversations about the fear of being perceived.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you can relate to that at all, and if you have any advice for someone out in the audience who is a beginner in a new area, but feels shaky with those first steps.
Ooh. Well, the fear of being perceived is why I do not have a budding DJ career currently, and that stays in my room. But I'd have to say...
Noted.
I got a DJ name, I got a plan. Once I move through the fear, it's over. I'd have to say, as a newcomer, I think the biggest thing, it doesn't change the fear. And I think the one thing I've been working through, even just as a 24-year-old in the world, is realizing that you're supposed to experience those emotions. I don't know about everybody else, but oftentimes I feel an added layer of guilt for experiencing the first thing. So not only are we dealing with fear, we're now dealing with the guilt about the fear.
Right, and it just stacks on and stacks on, yeah.
And the gift you can give yourself is, rather than saying, why am I afraid? Be a little afraid, but don't feel guilty about it, because what we do know, like you said, it feels so individual, but it's such a communal experience.
Right.
Everyone is figuring out their path as they go. And I think what's been really helpful for me is being a forever student.
Yes.
It's really reaffirming. I think the thing that I've learned from watching my family is that there is so much knowledge that you don't even know when you'll use it, by just being open to the world and asking all the questions and not being afraid to ask questions, even if they sound simple, even if it feels like you should know it already.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when all of our kind of revelations have happened, have been people just giving a tidbit and being like, oh, that was the bit of context I never knew I needed.
Right.
Oh, that was the thing that was really reaffirming. But I think, yeah, not being afraid of being a beginner, I think I have to remind myself of that frequently, is that almost everybody that I looked up to had to do what they did and what they're known for the first time at some point. And so, yeah, that's been my journey thus far.
And it plays into when we often say, wow, it feels I've experienced multiple lives, right? And so if that is the case, then you're an infant again and again and again.
And
right?
it's exciting. I mean, honestly, I think life would be so boring if we didn't have these moments of new beginnings. Even as crazy as they may feel in the moment, I could only imagine if I was doing the same bit for decades to come.
Word.
I'd be tired.
Monotonous.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I try and also remind myself of that too, where it's like, you can have the monotony of doing the same thing, or the shaky, crazy, slightly like vertigo feeling of trying something new.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we're witnessing you doing that, because you're also, in a way, you're signing a million permission slips for us to follow on this path of being fear, or maybe not removing the fear, but stepping boldly even while the ground feels like it's shaking beneath us.
Yeah, walking through the fear.
Yeah. You've mentioned community and how it drives so much of your work, and even beyond your doings, but it also drives your being. And I've witnessed in recent years a shift from individualism to collectivism. And I think that is because we recognize an imbalance, right? A disharmony. However, in my opinion, both still have utility to them. Both have value. value, right? Both are necessary to our creativity. And I'm wondering, what is your balance in both honoring the individual but honoring yourself as a part of the community? And then on the community end, how does that really shape your work?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand. They may sound like opposites, but I feel like at its best, community is what drives you to be your best self, your most unique self, your most individual self. And I feel like when I think of the people that I'm lucky to consider being in community with, oftentimes they're the ones that are reminding me to tap into who I am. They're the ones that are telling me to trust my gut and my instinct. And so the two really do go hand in hand. And I think it is the beauty of, it's one thing that my papa says. I've grown up hearing him talk about relationship equity, which is that so many times, especially, we have once in a lifetime opportunities to be in rooms like this. We hear a lot about networking. But I think the thing he's always reminded us for years is the importance of building relationships, which isn't what can you do for me right now, but just I'm happy to get to know you right now.
Right.
And so many times I'd have to say when Mommy and I opened Seventh Son and we had started our production company together.
Shout out to Yara Shahidi.
Big shout out.
Astounding woman, might I add.
Yeah. Like we had already, of course, been on a journey of being business partners, but we were so surprised by how many people rounded the corner wanting to work with us because these were just relationships that we had seeded years ago, not knowing, oh, in a couple years we're going to circle back because we're going to have this production company. But the idea of building relationships and seeing where that will take you has really been pivotal in my journey. And I think, even when you say then how has community fueled my work, I feel like I am the result of community. I think in many ways, I think this is nerdy, but when I turned in my thesis for school.
Say that again, say that again.
When I turned in my thesis.
You would the school being Harvard?
Yeah, so when I got my degree in black political thought under neocolonialism,
There's not enough times you can say that, Yara, okay?
But as I was getting that degree, I think the one thing, it made me reflect on community in particular when I was writing the acknowledgments, and I was like, wow, I opened with saying that this work is the product of love, but it's the product of being loved. And I think all we can do for one another is show up with as much love as possible and see where that can take us.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Yeah.
What? I feel so much lighter just hearing that. I don't know, that's very illuminating, that's beautiful. Do you have a story, either from someone that you came across through your work with Carrie on Seventh Son Productions, or from the Optimist Project that really just like stuck to your soul? Something that stands out as extra inspirational.
We've learned so much. Okay, one tidbit that I feel like we learned while recording the podcast that I think is just useful was Dr. Allison Powell Hicks, wonderful Black mental health coach, was walking through the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion.
Ooh.
And I hadn't learned this before, but she was basically sharing, sympathy is that idea of like, oh, I feel bad for you.
Right.
Sucks to suck. Like, empathy is that feeling of I'm in it with you. And oftentimes I think we're a very empathetic people. And so the issue is we take on all those feelings. We take on the burden. She said compassion is that moment in which you're able to sit in a place of love and say, I'm so sorry you're going through that, and I'm going to be here with you as you move through it, but it doesn't require you taking on the feelings. And I felt like that was just such an insightful thing, because I feel like so many times, especially when you're with your friends, I'm like, I'm feeling the feelings for you. You're upset, I'm mad. I hold grudges longer than most of my friends. They'll say they're over it. I'm still giving people side eyes.
Hello, right.
And I think that's what helped in that moment in which she clarified that. I was like, oh, right, there's this other compassion spot where it clears up some of your emotional space, too,
right,
to be able to exist as a human in the world.
And be of service to more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to name one particular story, because I'd have to say we're pretty lucky to be surrounded by some incredible folks. And so I feel like I'm regularly using my notes app to write things down, to be like, journal about this later.
Yo, I do the same thing too. Yeah, I'm very much using my notes app on the phone. I'm always taking notes when it comes to podcasts. Even when I'm out in the audience too, because I very much have experienced CultureCon out in the audience, and I'm always like scribbling, typing, doing whatever, because inspiration can be everywhere, but it requires two things: active listening and something you have a surplus of, curiosity.
Yes.
And curiosity is also the antidote to judgment.
Yeah.
You know, even when it comes to judging yourself, going back to how you shared with feeling the discomfort of trying something new, and you can kind of break through that by being curious about what this feeling, if this feeling were to show up as a teacher, what lessons can I receive from it? And you had a year of curiosity, a year of saying yes.
Yes.
What was the catalyst and what was the result?
Well, I had just come out of my year of saying no, and it was a great year for
no,
me.
okay.
No, I have both. But the
okay.
catalyst was my year of no.
This
and
is
my
where we
year
have balance.
of no was a great year of trying to stay firm to what I want and being okay in turning things down and asking for what I want. But after the year of no, it was time for my year of yes and time for my year of curiosity. And so the one thing that we did to catalyze it was write down the list of what we called the hard yeses, which is like, what are the things that move you regardless? It could be a color, a food, a person, an experience. But it was really interesting to start to take note of like, what are these experiences that I have that make me really excited, that I find really fulfilling? And so that was the first step. But then part of it was just, again, being open to the journey. What you said about curiosity is so resonant, because the one thing about me, I am pro rabbit hole. I think too many times we say that the rabbit holes are unproductive. But what's so funny is we live in a culture that really applauds multi-hyphenates, but the culture and society says we can only excel if we focus on one thing.
Yeah.
But so many times the people that are moving, innovating, and moving things ahead are the people that are taking their particular set of interests and combining them in a way that's unique to them.
Yes.
And I feel like so much of my journey has been realizing how many times the random hobby, the random thing I had a question about ended up feeding back into my work in ways that I could not even guess. And so I feel like because of that, I always talk about the importance of embracing what you're curious about, and there really is nothing off path. I think so many times there's this feeling of how much we have to clear out of the way to be on path, but I feel like a good tangent, a good side path now and then takes you to places you never thought you would be.
Young Shahidi, you are remarkable. Let me just say that. And maybe keep that in your back pocket for when you're ready to be a DJ. Young Shit, wow, yeah, no, all of that makes more than the most sense, my dear. And I hate that that actually is how we have to conclude. But I do want to sneak in two things really quickly.
Please.
Because I do have to say, my girl, you've put me on to a lot of good tunes. And I know that's been the same for folks in here as well. Is there a song that currently is the soundtrack to your optimism?
Ooh. I think what's on theme and what I've been listening to almost daily is Things I Imagine by Solange.
Oh, yep.
I try and hit that baritone thing. That's a different show.
Right. It's a different show. That works. Yeah. If y'all have not heard that, make sure that you put that into your playlist immediately. And then, guess what, y'all? There's a surprise in the mix, because Yara is a community girl, and she wants everyone here at CultureCon to have the opportunity to actually participate in her new podcast, The Optimist Project. What we got going on?
All right, so you get a QR code, you get a QR code, we're all getting QR codes. And the goal is, when you go to this QR code, exactly like you said, we're really excited. The Optimist Project is supposed to be a group journey. We'll be learning together. And so this is a spot where I just want your input, your thoughts. What do you want to hear? What makes you optimistic?
Yeah.
What's a piece of advice you're looking for? And so while we go on this journey, we can start to grow together. So I'm really grateful. It's truly a couple questions. So you take 2 minutes, and it'll give us enough fuel to continue to address the things that pop up for us throughout the season.
Yes, and if you've ever wanted to work with Yara, this is pretty much your opportunity to do so.
Come on now, y'all.
You get a free opportunity to collaborate with the incomparable Yara Shahidi. Thank you so much for your time, honey.
Tracy.
CultureCon, Thank y'all. Make sure you
Thank
tune into the
you.
Optimist Project, November 2024.
Yes,
Just a
November.
couple weeks away. And once
Thank
again, I'm
you.
Tracy G.
It's so
It's been a
beautiful.
pleasure.
Thank